Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry. Welcome into the show, and thanks for spending part of your day talking some Steelers football with us. We got a bunch of stuff to cover on today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. First of all, we're going to get to a double dose of good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers right at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into what Arthur Smith had to say about the George Pickens drama and his usage rate against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night last week. Then we get into the Steelers' offensive stat analysis. All right, I'm going to be going into Arthur Smith's offense here through the first 5 weeks, talking about where they can improve, what's going on right now, and how they can get better moving forward. Then we'll get into two Steelers takes that really bother me at the end of today's show. There's two kind of popular takes on Steelers Twitter that I just want to address. So make sure you guys stick around to the end of the show there, and make sure you guys click that subscribe button to start the show here. We have in-depth free Steelers content right here on the channel every single day. So if you bleed black and gold, join the largest Steelers news community here on YouTube with over 63,000 subscribers. So already subscribed here to Steelers Talk. So with that, let's get into the first bit of good news for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is that wide receiver Roman Wilson looks a lot better in practice this week than he has in the previous weeks. Now, Roman has been practicing fully for the past 3 weeks, and he's been a healthy scratch, has not got a helmet over the last 3 games where he has not had an injury designation. So, obviously, Steelers fans are pretty concerned about that, but this week, video is starting to surface here of Roman really looking sharp, running his routes. It's looking like he might be ready to potentially come out and play his first NFL game this weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders. And if not this week, then hopefully next week as well. So it does seem like Roman is getting better and better. I think that probably the main reason why he hasn't gotten the nod and the helmet to start his career here these last 3 weeks is because he hasn't been fully healthy. Now he's been fully practicing, so it's like, what the heck is that about? But I just don't think he was at a point physically where they felt confident in him. It seems like this week in practice he's doing a lot better. And if he's healthy, plain simply, guys, he has to play, all right? This wide receiver room is in desperate need of some offensive playmaking help, especially on, like, those deep crossers that Arthur Smith has been running quite a bit. Van Jefferson is the guy that's been running those kind of crossing routes to this point, and he's not creating any separation. This guy's got the wheels to get that job done. Okay, now we get to the second bit of good news. Mike Tomlin said in his weekly press conference on Tuesday that Jaylen Warren can be considered doubtful to play this week, still dealing with that knee injury. But Warren told the media this week that he feels perfectly fine, and there's a bunch of little clips from Steelers practice leaking out showing Jaylen Warren looks explosive. He's looking really good, and he might be on track to play this weekend against the Las Vegas Raiders. And we know how important a healthy Jaylen Warren can be for this Steelers offense. Right now, there's just not a whole lot of splash. There's not a whole lot of explosive plays in this Steelers offense, and that's one of the main issues that we'll talk about later in the show. But Jaylen Warren, as we know, even in a Matt Canada offense, was the main source of splash, so getting him back could be really, really big in terms of generating big plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively. So now, let's shift over to Arthur Smith here, because he addressed the George Pickens whole drama here in terms of the snaps that he was getting. And I thought that his answer was really, really interesting. So this is what he had to say. You go into any game plan, certain players, how you try to package things, you try to maximize snaps. Certainly, we've done it with other premium players. We've done it with Derrick Henry, did it with A.J. Brown early. Certain things, tried to mix or match and maximize things or set things up. I get it. You lose a game and somebody may look off or whatever, but it's not. And we communicate to every player, whether it's Scotty Miller or Van Jefferson or Connor Heyward. Those are week-to-week things. That's the best way I can answer that. But the only thing here, Art, is that you really didn't do that with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. He talked about how he took Derrick Henry off the field on third downs, but that's not really the same thing as having a number one receiver and playing him half of the offensive snaps. I think it's a little bit different there. I don't think that Arthur can point to a single game where A.J. Brown played less than 70% of the offensive snaps, let alone 53% like George Pickens had on Sunday Night Football last week. There was obviously something where the Steelers said, this guy's not giving enough effort. Let's probably try to preserve him. They probably thought it was a fatigue issue, and they put him out there less to try to get better effort out of him. And it just didn't really work. Honestly, George might have had less effort because he got less snaps. So I certainly think that George Pickens is going to get more reps this week. I think that the Steelers coaching staff has definitely heard the noise this week, and they saw the results. George Pickens gives less effort if you give him less reps. So you got to give him more to really keep him involved in the football game, to keep him engaged. Not to mention, if you take him off the field, the defense can just pin their ears back and just defend the run because there's really nobody else that's fearable in terms of perimeter threats on this offense. So you got to keep George Pickens on the field. I think Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin realize that. So I guess we'll see what happens. And listen, man, I will say this. The last time that Steelers fans were really pissed at George Pickens, saying that they should trade him and all this different stuff, he came out and had arguably the best performance of his entire NFL career in Mason Rudolph's debut as the starting quarterback last year against the Cincinnati Bengals. 4 catches, 195 yards on just 4 catches and 2 touchdowns, multiple long touchdown plays for George Pickens. So it seems like Pickens might play his best football when he's pissed off a little bit here. He's definitely been hearing the noise. You can tell that he's pissed off. Hopefully that leads to good football from GP against the Raiders. So weigh in. Let me know down there in the comments section. Will George Pickens have a big game this week? Give me a yes or a no for today's pinned comment. Coming up here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor here at Game Time. And while I talk about Game Time, let me know if you think George Pickens is going to have a big week against the Raiders. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And folks, we all know that experiencing a sporting event, especially a Steelers home football game at Acrisure Stadium live, is unlike anything you can get from watching the Steelers game on your couch. Game Time Picks is a brand new feature on the free Game Time app, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It is a huge time saver. So here's how it works, guys. You download the free Game Time app. You find an event you want to go see, and then you select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen, and it automatically filters through every single ticket on their database to find you the best tickets at the best price. And the best part is, guys, and what I really love using the Game Time app, and the reason why it's the only ticketing app on my phone, is because they have the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. They also have transparent all-in pricing, so you don't get slapped with like a $70 crazy fee at checkout like other ticketing apps. And then they also have flash deals, so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS. It's right down there on the bottom of your screen right now for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's just for that first purchase. Create an account with our friends at Game Time and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off that first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So now let's take a little bit of a deep dive here into the Steelers offense, led by new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. And listen, man, Art has been taking a lot of flack here for his play calling to start this season. And although I don't think it has been perfect, I think that he might be getting a little bit of a bad rap. Now, you look at the numbers, and I understand why people are still frustrated with the production, right? 26th in points per game. They're not getting to that 20 points per game mark just yet. They're 23rd in yards per game, so the macro numbers aren't what you want to see. The yards per play still sitting at 25th as well, so that is well below average here in the National Football League. Now, situationally, they're a little bit better. Third down, they were 40.5%. Red zone, they're sitting at 50-50 right now. And then the giveaways, they're actually doing a really good job protecting the football. So in those kind of micro metrics right there, the team is actually doing pretty decently, but more towards league average. But honestly, guys, when I look at the film, I actually kind of like a lot of the stuff that Arthur Smith is doing schematically, especially in the passing game. It's just kind of a lack of execution, whether it's wide receivers not getting open, whether that's Justin Fields not having very good pocket presence, whether that's Justin Fields making a bad decision with where to go with the football, whether that's a wide receiver drops it on a critical down. There's a lot of things on film that I see, especially on third downs, like third and manageables, that the team just doesn't execute, but the scheme and what Art is trying to do is actually really good. And I actually really like the stuff that I'm seeing in the red zone from Arthur Smith, getting guys open, giving Justin Fields opportunities to use his legs and get into the end zone as well. So honestly, I think Arthur Smith is doing a pretty good job. The team itself just needs to do a little bit better job executing on game day itself. And the two things that I will say in terms of the passing game, you got to get the ball to Calvin Austin III and Pat Freiermuth more often, especially for CA3 in the middle of the field so that he can really catch it and run. All right, Pat Freiermuth has had some really great opportunities to get the football, and Justin Fields just doesn't throw it to him unfortunately, especially this last week's game against Dallas Cowboys. Calvin Austin III had that one really good game against the Los Angeles Chargers. And honestly, when you watch the film, Calvin has been a really good route runner. He might be the best route runner on the Steelers right now, but Justin Fields isn't really getting him the football because George Pickens is usually the main read. And, you look at the numbers here, and these just need to go up, just plain simply. And the fact that George Pickens still doesn't have a touchdown is a freaking joke. George Pickens is arguably a top 10 receiver in terms of pure talent in the league, and we can't get him the ball into the end zone. There's certain things here with these weapons where, yes, it's not the best wide receiver room in the world, but also, Arthur needs to do a better job at scheming things up for George Pickens, and Justin Fields needs to do a better job of being an efficient passer because, listen, man, the Steelers' offense is designed to be methodical. You have to be able to hit these 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 4s. You can't be punting in those situations. You have to have a lot of situational awareness. You have to be efficient. You have to be accurate. And there's been times this year where Justin Fields hasn't been that. Now, I completely acknowledge that Fields hasn't had necessarily the best help in terms of the wide receiver position this year. George Pickens isn't giving the best effort. Van Jefferson isn't getting open at all. Calvin Austin III is a tiny target. All these different things. But Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin III are open relatively consistently, and then George Pickens is a great 50-50 ball winner. Justin Fields, you can't just use the wide receivers as an ultimate crutch for him if he's not playing well. And then also, I still think the mental processing is a bit slow on the part of Justin Fields. Right now, he still has the 5th highest time to throw in the National Football League. Now, this number here at almost 3 seconds is down a little bit from 3.2 seconds just last year with Chicago. So he is making growth in this department, but the fact that it's still close to 3 seconds still probably shows that Justin Fields is one of the slower mental processors in the National Football League, and he definitely relies on the scramble a little bit too much, and that's not what Arthur Smith wants from his quarterback. And some legitimate concerns with Justin Fields is that, yes, he is turning down open receivers at times. The film definitely shows that. The poor pocket presence at times. There's multiple points in that Dallas Cowboys game where I'm telling myself, Justin, just shift in the pocket a little bit, and you're going to buy yourself enough time to make this throw. But instead, he just stays stagnant, and he either gets hit as he throws or something else. And it's just not, or he escapes the pocket and throws it away, and the play's dead. And then also some lapses in situational awareness. Sometimes it'll be like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and he has an open receiver right at the sticks, and instead he throws the ball deep to a low percentage target, right? So I think that Fields has some areas of growth. Now, I'm not saying that I would replace Justin Fields as QB1. I will. If I were Mike Tomlin, I would go out there and trot him out as this team's starter because I think that he's played generally well enough on film to earn the opportunity to be this team's long-term starter. But I'll say this, man, if he has a slow start against the Las Vegas Raiders, I do not think Mike Tomlin will hesitate to go to Russell Wilson and see what they have in him because he was named this team's starting quarterback to begin the season. So who starts more games this season at the end of the day? Do you think Russell Wilson comes in and starts more games than Justin Fields at the end of the day? Type RW. Or do you think Justin Fields will, at the end of the day, be this team's starting quarterback for the entire season? Type JF if you think him. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. So we'll finish up today's show with 2 Steelers takes that I see a lot on Steelers Twitter that kind of bother me. And I want to address them because, I think that these are wrong, and I want to kind of give my thoughts on why I think they're wrong. So the first bad take here, in my opinion, is that this offensive line this season stinks, all right? And that is just not bared out by the film or by the grading or by the numbers that we're seeing out of this season. Now, Broderick Jones at right tackle has been bad. All right, but outside of him, Dan Moore Jr. is ranking among the top 20 in offensive tackles in Pro Football Focus grading this year, and he has been excellent, a top 10 pass protector in football this year. Then you have Isaac Seumalo, who doesn't have a rank right now because he's only played in 1 game, but he's back, and we know how solid he is. Then you have Zach Frazier in the center position, who has been unbelievable, the highest-graded offensive lineman on this team, one of the highest-rated rookies in the National Football League. He's great in the run game, great as a pass protector as well. I thought it would maybe take him a year or 2 to really acclimate himself to the NFL. I was wrong about that. He's been a stud from day one. The Mason McCormick has been fine for a rookie offensive guard, but Broderick has been the one issue. And then specifically about the offensive line sucks comment, right? Specifically Dan Moore Jr. Like, people still think Dan Moore Jr. stinks because he kind of stunk, in the previous years of his Steelers career, and that's just like burned into the brains of Steelers fans where they can't even fathom Dan Moore Jr. being a good player. But the film doesn't lie. The stats don't lie. The PFF grading, well, maybe it lies. Maybe they are telling us lies on that. But I'm telling you that the film doesn't lie because I've watched it, and this guy has all of a sudden turned into one of the best pass-protecting left tackles in the National Football League, and he deserves his flowers from Steelers Nation, who really was ready to throw him in the garbage. I was ready to throw him into the garbage, right? We were rejoicing when they drafted his replacements in the first round of the last 2 NFL drafts. So I think that this unit, I think another thing that you can probably point to here is that I think that this unit as a whole, if they can stay healthy, all right, they're going to gel as the season goes on. So they're only going to get better and better and better. So I think that the idea that this offensive line has been bad to start this season is just incorrect. Maybe you can say Broderick Jones hasn't been good, but to say the entire line has been a joke or that it's been terrible, I think it's an overreaction and it's wrong. Second bad take is that the Steelers should have kept Brian Flores before he went to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, listen, man, I can see that hindsight is 20/20 here. Brian Flores is a great, and I mean great, defensive coach. He might be one of the best defensive coaches in football. But there's 2 reasons why I think that this is a bad take by Steelers fans. Number one, at the time, there was no reason to move on from Terrell Austin. And by the way, there's no reason to move on from Terrell Austin now. The Steelers' defense was the best defense in football down the stretch in 2022. So to replace Austin for Flores would have been such a bad look on the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. And by the way, throughout Austin's entire tenure, this has been an above-average defense at best, with most of the time being a top 10 unit, with injuries, by the way. So Austin, there's nothing wrong with the job that he has done. Plus, Brian Flores wouldn't be running the same system that he's running in Minnesota right now, all right? The way that it works here in Pittsburgh is that Mike Tomlin runs his scheme, all right? He is in charge of the defensive game planning along with the defensive coordinator, and then the defensive coordinator calls the plays. But make no mistake, it's Mike Tomlin's defense, all right? And if Brian Flores was kept on as the DC, we wouldn't be seeing all the crazy cover zero stuff that he's running in Minnesota. We wouldn't be seeing all of the really creative stuff in terms of the blitz packages that he's doing in Minnesota. We'd be seeing literally the same exact scheme we see from Terrell Austin, only with Brian Flores calling the play. So I think that saying, with 2020 hindsight, that, oh, we should have kept Brian Flores, I think it's completely ridiculous. And I think that, it's just with 2020 hindsight, man. I think it's ridiculous. All right, man, that'll be it for today's show. I know I got a little hot there at the end of the show, but make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Make sure you type real one down there in the comments section. I know today was a little bit of a longer video, so I appreciate you guys for sticking around to the very end. So make sure you type real one if you made it to the end.